Our RoboFriends app. We've missed it, haven't we? We haven't seen our RoboFriends in a long time. But I want to demonstrate some of the caching things happening behind the scenes with RoboFriends. If I open up the developer tools, remember how I said that the client side or the browser has a ton of caching mechanisms to make sure that our RoboFriends app is as fast as possible? Well, if I refresh here, I get all these requests, but check out the size tab. If I make this a little bit bigger, we see that it's saying our HTML file, our CSS file, and our JavaScript file was from Service Worker. There's no size associated with it because this is cached by the Service Worker. Remember how the Service Worker is something that allows us to intercept HTTP requests? And it's going to check the cache and say, hey, do I already have this? Do I already have CSS? Do I already have JavaScript? And just return it without actually hitting the server? Well, yeah, that's what it is, right? If we go back to the application tab, we see that, oh yeah, we have a cache that is provided by the browser called cache storage. And in here, look at that. I have all these files that I've cached, including my font, my JavaScript file, my CSS, my HTML. These are all cached, saved in the browser. And we also have something called application cache, which is an older form of cache storage that not many people use anymore. But you see that we have this ability in the browser to remember things. But it's not just this, right? We also have things like session storage, which we've talked about, where I can hold information like key value information, like holding tokens. But you can do some interesting things here where you hold perhaps objects and other information that might be useful for your app to remember without having to go back to the server or doing those requests. And again, same for local storage. And you can even use things like index.db or IndexedDB, which is used a lot in mobile applications where you have a little mini database on the browser. All things to make sure that you're not traveling, making requests over wires over long distances. Now, if we go back to the network tab, we also see that if I scroll down, I have from memory cache that this was accessed because this refresh happened, well, I've already visited this site before and it remembers. And you see that that's all from memory, so it's extremely fast. And then I also have disk cache. And we know all about these. We know about memory, we know about disk, and we also learned about service workers. And if I refresh again, I have all these things still cached. If I do a hard refresh though, and I say, all right, I want to empty cache and hard reload, there you go. That website took a little bit longer to load, and we see that, yeah, we've actually requested all these things to be loaded all over again. With the exception of a few things that I have running in the background, which is just the plugins that I have. But all the website materials were requested from the backend or whatever service we have. If I refresh again though, again, a lot faster, everything is cached. Now, we already know how to do the service worker things. But how do we cache these things ourselves, manually? I feel like this is being done by the browser automatically. And yes, browsers are configured to do this automatically for us, but we can control it. And in the next video, I'm going to show you how to do this. But before I do this, you might be asking yourself, there's an issue here. What if a designer on my team decides to change this CSS file and make the, let's say, the robot's background red instead of green? Any user that would refresh then, well, wouldn't see that red background because they're using this information from cache. And because it's from cache, it won't know that the changes have been made. And while my website is completely different, they might view an older version of the website. How do we deal with this? And this is something called cache busting. I know it's a pretty cool sounding name, but it's very simple. You see these random numbers that were generated for us? If you remember, when we go back to our RoboFriends PWA, when we do npm run build, Webpack gets everything optimized for production, combines all the CSS files, all the JavaScript files into one and into optimized files. And you see that, it's also gzipped, which we know about. That's great. But we also see that it's built a new main CSS and main.js file. And these numbers are created by Create React App, or we can manually create them as well. We can just change the name file to this. Now, here's the cool thing. If I run npm run build again, and I release these files to production, let's say I put them on GitHub pages, well, you see that these numbers are the exact same as they were before. So the user is just going to see a cached version of my older files because, well, they haven't changed. What if we change something though? What if I open up Sublime Text, and in here, I'm just going to change our, let's say our CSS and index.css to have padding of 50 pixels. I'm going to save, go back and run npm run build again. All right, we see that Webpack has created the bundle, and we see that it's 2 bytes larger because we've just added a few extra characters. And our JavaScript file, if we go up a bit, we see is the exact same name, but our CSS file now has a different number than the one above. And again, Webpack does this automatically for you. If there's been a change already, well, in that case, I'm going to change this number so that next time I go back to RoboFriends app, and let's say I put this up in production on GitHub pages, when I refresh this page, the CSS file will have a different number. And that way the browser knows, the CSS file has changed. I'm going to grab the latest one. And that is what cache busting is. As long as you name your files differently, it's going to grab it no matter what, whether it has it in cache or not. Very, very cool. Now, even if you don't have Create React App, that's something easily that you can implement yourself, right? If a designer creates a new CSS style with red backgrounds, they can just simply manually change this number to something different before. Maybe you can say version 5, and now you make sure that all your users will have the latest version. They'll grab the latest version, and then when they refresh again, they'll use it from cache, but they will have the red background. All right, in the next video, we're going to talk about how you can implement caching yourself without just using this default behavior from Create React App and the browsers. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.